All right. Well, Dennis Quaile, thanks for coming down and kicking off season 2. We're glad to be back. We feel like we've been gone for a while, but in coming back, we wanted to make sure that we had somebody that, I mean, pretty much everybody out there would love to hear from, and we thought that you were the perfect fit. I mean, Billy gave such a high recommendation, and everybody knows who you are. So it's really an honor to have you come down, sit, and talk with us for a little bit. So, I mean, let's just dive right into it. So I know that you are a musician. You are a dancer, but if I'm to ask you, Dennis Quaile, what are you? What are you?
Combination of both. Everything in my life stems from my family. I think everybody knows I'm one of 11, and the oldest 6 were a band, and so I was a musician since I was 8 years old. And that's sort of how we got into my father was in Quaker City. That's why we're always associated with Quaker City. My father was in Quaker City. He taught us how to sing when we were young. We're like the Osmonds. And he would bring us down to Quaker City and say, hey, look at these kids. The real story was the TV broke. We were home, and my mother said, do something with these kids or I'm going to kill you. And he took out his banjo and he started playing, and he taught us how to sing. Well, we all sang and everything. So we were with Quaker City. And then it was like, okay, you're singing. Now who's going to play what instrument? So it wasn't like, do you want to play an instrument? It's what instrument are you going to play? Oh, we need a bass. Then you're the bass player. You know, that type of thing. So we were the Quailes growing up, but I was always a musician first. And then as I got older, my brother Jimmy heard on TV that Buddy Rich, great drummer, took tap dancing lessons to make him a better drummer. So he says, I'm going to take tap lessons because I'm going to be a better drummer. And I always wanted to be a dancer. I just like dancing in the basement, you know. And so he had a friend of his come over, and she started teaching tap. He left. He walked out of the first time, and I stayed and I tapped. And then she said, "You should continue this." So I started dancing all the time, still playing music as one of the Quaile brothers. Oh, we were the Quaker City kids. We used to tour. We used to go out with Quaker City when they used to do jobs. And look at these little kids, you know. And we were called the Quaker City Kids on Quaker City's holiday something album. Quaker City Kids. That's the Quailes. Just a little tidbit of useless knowledge. And so the whole time we were always playing music, but one like side thing, I was learning how to dance. Dance came very easy to me, especially tap dancing, because tap dancing is rhythms. It's just rat-ta-ta. Yeah, and if you could hear the rhythm in my mind, I can get my body to do it. So my brother Bob was a music teacher. Like I said, it all stems from my family. My brother Bob was a music teacher at a grade school, and he had a 60-piece grade school band. They were phenomenal. He used to put on shows. So me being the special one who can put on little shows, said, "Den, come. You want to come help me put on some shows?" So I was, doing a little crazy thing, little ragtime stuff and everything. Kids loved it. So then after that happened, I started getting asked to do high school shows and everything. And I was like, you know what? I should take a dance class or 2 just to learn how to be a dancer so I could teach right. And I a local dance studio I knew had male dancers there. And I signed up for that because I didn't want to be the only guy in class. I paid 2 of my sisters to take the class with me because I didn't go. And some people know this, but anyhow. So I go to dance class, and I'm taking a jazz class and a tap class. And the jazz class is first. And she puts me in between these 2 guys, and I'm trying to match them kick for kick at the bar, like for warm-ups. The one guy was on Broadway. The other guy just got done making a movie and dancing in a movie. I'm trying, me little schlubutz, trying to match him. And the teacher, who knew of the Quailes, because we were pretty much local, said, breathe, take it easy. These guys are advanced. Just take it easy. Take it easy. So we did do it. And we did something where we went down to the floor, and I stood up and I fainted. I stood up and went bang in the middle of the floor. Nobody knew who I was. There's this lunatic in the middle of the floor. Everybody looked at my sisters, and they're like, got nothing. I fainted my first dance class. And I'm surprised that I went back for the second class. But I think that I knew I was a little bit better in tap. I went in, I took it, and I was hooked from then. And as soon as I started taking class, I stopped all people asking, I said, no, I can't do that, because I saw how much I did not know. And so I was dancing all the while, still playing music, still as the Quailes. The music took dominant. It was like that. Dancing was secondary, and then as we went along, then it turned into. Should I go into how I got into teaching mummers? I was taking dance class all the time, still playing music, and I had a bunch of friends come down from New York to see the mummers parade. And I said, "Wait till you see this! It's great! It's the best!" And this parade sucked this year. It was just horrible. And I'm talking string bands. I didn't know. I don't think I knew one fancy person at all. So I'm sitting there saying, "Here comes this band, and they're great," and they were bad. And here comes this band, and they were horrible. So I went home that night, and I'm just sitting there thinking. And I thought, if I was doing it, I would do it this. And I wrote a theme down. I just wrote it down. So the next day after the parade, I was Monday morning quarterback, with my parents. And my father said, "What we're doing is not right." This was right before the whole dancing thing came along. He said, "It's not working." He said, "You got any ideas? Just happen to have one." And I did. And that they used that on with their theme, making music since 1981. That was the first year I choreographed for a string band.
And that was Quaker, right?
That was Quaker. And so, like I said, I've always been associated with Quaker. The first year I marched was with Greater Overbrook. I did 5 years at that. It was one of these things where we're all going here. Okay, let's go. And so we did. I did 5 years. I played third alto saxophone for 5 years.
Oh wow!
And then after that, I was with Quaker. And then 1 year, it was 1976. The only reason I know that was because of the bicentennial. The parade was postponed for a week, and one of the guys in Quaker. My father was a drill master at Quaker City at this point in time. And one guy had booked a cruise or something like that the day after New Year's or something. So the parade got postponed, so he wasn't carrying a suit. So my father's like, "We need a bass player." Then put the suit on. New Year's morning, I put his suit on, learned the music, learned the drill. But the drill was like 4 steps forward, 4 steps back. But and so that was the first year I paraded with Quaker City. New Year's morning. At the end, I think they got 4th or 5th. I was like, "Okay, that was fun."
Were you hooked?
I was hooked on. I was never really hooked on. I really wasn't. I saw like it's beyond the passion for these guys, and people got into it. I was hooked on the creative aspect of it. Okay, these guys are going to say, "Here's 50 grand. Put on a show." I didn't get 50 grand, but I mean, it's like there was no limits. Okay, I need a castle built. Okay, we'll build a castle. That really intrigued me, and plus my inspirations were. I say this to everybody. Any choreographer is the biggest thief walking on the planet, including myself. I am the biggest. You take something that you see from somewhere else. It's videos nowadays, and then you adapt it to what you're doing. And then you add it to the music you're using and with the costume. Now it's yours. So you get credit for it. But don't think like Michael Jackson's moonwalk. It was the camel walk. They did it in 1920.
Right.
So but Michael Jackson did it at the right time, in the right place.
Right.
It's his, not just about. So my muse for all choreography was Bob Fosse. And so when I started doing choreography, I was doing a lot of his style. And everybody was like, "Why? Why?" Like, I snap my fingers. Most people snap their finger down. Fosse snaps it up. I love that. So, yeah. And they said, "Why you snap it up?" I said, "Why not?" And so then I started doing crap that everybody wasn't doing. And I say this all the time. Mummers copy from other mummers. And that's where you get screwed because everybody has memorized every drill from every club for every year.
Yeah.
I said, I steal from either Broadway or Cirque du Soleil or drum corps, or you steal from everything. And then you adapt it to what you're doing, to how many guys you're doing it, in what costume, then it's yours. But I said, we didn't make this crap up. You put it together, you adapt it to your club. And that's where it gets, the creativity was great for me, because the guys, the first year I did Quaker, one guy said, "This is stupid. I don't like doing this." Get rid of him. It's like you really have to jump in whole hog. And all the clubs that I've done, 95% of them, I liken it to the marching band in Animal House. If I tell them, turn right and walk 40 steps and there's a wall there, they will walk into the wall.
Yeah.
And they say, what? You know, so that's, I was hooked on the creativity because I always had a theme or two in my head a year before. Like I was always prepared for tune. And I never submitted my themes until the last one. I never went in before anybody else because in my book, everybody thinks I have like this catalog. Oh, here's this kind of theme. I would work on it. So I would never go first because they'd say, well, I want to do clowns, or we could take Dennis's idea from there, but it was my clown theme. No, you're not. You know? So I always want to ask them, that's not fair. That was my job. My job was to come up with things.
Now, I had this down, actually, sorry not to cut you off, but you kind of brought it up. I had it down as a later point, but I want to hit it now. Is it okay, do you think, to reference other Mummer shows when you're putting together new ones, or you think that's a total waste of time?
Definitely. You can, if it works in what you're doing. If you're putting it in there just to fill space. I always get calls from other drill masters, and I get it in April, and I get them in October. And April, they say, we're going to go out as doorknobs. Okay, what do you think, then? I say, we'll do this and this. And then they say, great, we're set. And then in October, we ran out of ideas, and we're only 2 minutes into the show. You got any more ideas? So, you're going to need fillers, but don't do something for your doorknob theme that somebody else just did for an Indian theme, because it doesn't fit. I was sort of doing a consult for a club, and they were doing like an exotic theme, and they were doing like cowboy steps. And I'm like, what are you doing? Well, it's because every pit band at the time was doing cowboy steps. Well, to me, that was wrong. But yeah, that's the way it goes. No, I try to base my knowledge and whatever I do. If a fourth grader understands it, maybe everybody else will. Maybe. And I always run ideas past my mom. And I say this to all the clubs. Take a non-mummer who understands mummery, but a non-parader, and tell them your idea. And a lot of times they'll say, that doesn't make sense.
My wife.
Yeah, it was my mom. I ran everything past my mom, and she said, that doesn't make sense to me. And I would change things because mom said so, which sounds sort of dorky, but
do you think things have been done in the past that maybe didn't play because they're too complex?
Yes, there's a couple of things I would love to have a do-over. I really would, for various reasons, but it wasn't the right time. We didn't do it right. The one mistake that every single band has done at one point in time, every brigade has done it too. Whatever theme you pick in February, that has to be the exact theme that you present in September and October. So as soon as you start, well, we're going to change the opening and we're going to change this music.
Yeah.
Then it's not that theme anymore. And I'm not saying don't change stuff. But if you're going to take the opening out, put in another opening that fits it as well. But there's a couple of themes I would love to. I would give a club a theme, and one of them, it was a period piece. It was supposed to be 50s and 60s, like that type of thing. They changed all the music. It made no sense at all. Then I look like a smacked ass because like
It's your theme.
It was Dennis Quaile's theme, and I was like, but it was supposed to be grease and hairspray. Put them together, and all of a sudden they're doing whatever. But I would like to do a couple of do-overs, just because it could still work. There's some things that could still work now. There are some things that's like, just let it die. You know, don't.
I was just gonna say, is there certain themes that you?
Oh, we made on this one time. There's like 20 of them. Like if I never do an Egyptian theme again in my life, I will be happy.
Yeah, I'll agree with you.
I mean, it's just like
Throw space in there too.
Yeah, space, jesters, cowboys. Let's go. And I'm not saying don't do those themes. Don't do them the way they were done. Don't just like, if you're going to do something, have a fresh spin on it. And that has also gone south too, putting a twist on it. For some reason, everybody thinks putting a twist on it means we're going to do it haunted. Stop with the goddamn haunted. Sorry. Like, we have haunted everything. It's like, why? Sometimes that works. Most of the times it doesn't.
Now, before we push forward, I got to get your opinion on something. Yes or no answer. Is there any theme that hasn't been done yet, in your opinion?
There is themes that can be done differently, not the way a normal mummer would perceive it. Like, in other words, if yes, I was just talking about one today that I would do in a heartbeat. It sort of has been done, but not this way.
I got you.
And to do it the way it's been done before, that I wouldn't do. And it's very difficult. I'm acting like this. Oh, we'll just get a different theme.
Sure.
It's very difficult to do, considering you need the costumes and you need the production and you need the music. It's really tough to do. It's easier to do. Choreography to me was easier to do for a string band than it was for a brigade. But coming up with the theme was easier for a brigade than it was for the string band. Simply because string bands is music, brigades are production, plain and simple. And I used to get in trouble for that because everybody would say, well, brigades are just trying to be like string bands. I said, no, they're not. They don't want it. I said, it's two separate entities. You're both mummers. I said, well, stop with the who's trying to beat who. I said, you're all, we got enough problems.
Speaking of concepts,
Yeah.
do you like the new string band, the big productions, or do you like it the old way?
I like it sort of, I like a toned down version of today. Like, I think what's going to happen is a couple of the clubs with the big floats and everything, they're going to get their ass burned by having that many. They're doing it well now. As long as you can pull off, knock yourself out. A lot of it I find is unnecessary. You don't need to change the background scenery every 30 bars. You know.
Yeah.
No, I agree.
And by changing scenery so much, that pulls your focus from what's happening on the floor in front of you. Like, there's right now too many things going on at one time, and it will pull your focus. My thing is, like, if you want the judges to see what's going on, the main part, go like da 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 center, you know, and
Sure.
doing it, and they will, and everybody will look that way. Well, when you have the 6 dancers going over here, and you have dancing saxophones and bouncing bass fiddles over here, and this, what are you supposed to look at? Like, and I learned that lesson from my dance teacher when I was in Quaker City, and I was marching. It was what the hell year was it? I don't know, whatever. And I was notorious for throwing people in the air. I'll throw him up. Don't ask me why. It was a face. and I was doing it, and I had 2 guys on stage right and 2 guys on stage left, and one was flipping the other one over, and I was in the center, and I did a triple turn, which I was being an asshole showing off, but anyhow, so I did triple, and so I got to flip over here, in the middle, and I said to my dance teacher, I said, what you think of the flip over? She said, what flip over? She was making a point. What flip over? She said, your turn looked really good. She said, how many things can you look at one time? And okay, hit home with that one. So what I did the New Year's morning, could I see the dancers in the schoolyard across the street? What the hell's he doing now? And what I did was I did the flip behind me. Like, I did the turn, and the legs went over that way. So it sort of worked out.
Was that Quaker City Scarecrows?
No, it was.
She did a flip on that one.
I just told you I was not. I come on to joke because I poor Rico. He got dropped on his head more times than the law allows, and he would say, "Stop throwing me in the air." I don't know. I just like throwing things. Did
certain clubs let you get away with doing certain things, and certain clubs say, "No, we're not doing that"?
Yeah, and that was, and I would keep that in mind. I would try to keep that like, okay, these guys don't like it when their feet are not on the ground. Brigades, basically, they were up for anything. String bands, you had the limitations of the instruments. You're holding the instruments. Yeah. I did a clown thing with Avalon one year, and it was just insane. We were just doing crazy shit. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
And
speak freely here.
Yeah, and one of the bass players, bass fiddle, said, can I jump on a trampoline?
Oh, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. And I said, yeah. So it's like, you can do stuff sort of like that. But then there's other times.
What's that?
Then there's other times. One guy said, can I walk on my hands? I said, you're wearing a gown. Yeah, but I can walk on my hands. But you're wearing a gown. Doing a religious theme.
Now, has there been a time a theme has gotten picked and you like it, but you're wondering if it's a fit for you?
No, because I think partially they would understand that, okay, we're going to do this because if Dennis is doing it. Like they wouldn't do anything, but most of the time I knew what I was working with, and they knew where they went. And it's always not a good blend. Like just because things work with me with one club, personalities in other clubs, it just doesn't work. And you try like hell, but it just doesn't happen. There have been times where they hit me with, "This is what we're doing." I'm like, "Are you kidding me?" And I said, "Well, let's go." And then I just do more research.
And do you feel as though you bring like a Quaile style to a club, or do you kind of adapt to the club you're working with to make it work?
I have a style. I get criticized a lot for, as you can spot a Dennis Quaile routine in my way. I take that as a compliment.
Yeah.
I said I could spot a Bob Fosse dance in my way. Because the way I do things with arms and everything like that. I've tried to step outside my own box just to try to understand. There was one time that I knew I couldn't do it, and it was with the Jokers. I very, very upfront, and they did this thing, and there was a 24 count break in the music, and it was tutting like the white guy here. I'm like, I'm not really good, So, and I went to them and I said, "Listen, I'll give you March Punch. I'll give you, kickball change, jazz hands. This is a little above me." And it was a crucial part in the music. It was a really dominant part of music. So John Lynch was the captain, and I said, "Ask your sister Dana," who I knew she was good at that. And I said, "Would she please come in?" And she came in and did it. And you sort of have to know your limitations.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, white guy over here trying to be tutting. No, it doesn't work.
You never had fear of stepping on each other's toes?
No. Well, I gave her, she got free reign. I don't think it would work if I was working with another choreographer. One thing I know about brigades and string bands is the clubs that have 20 guys on a committee, it doesn't work, because you have this one said this and this one said, to do a theme, to have the club win consistently, you need 3 people, and those 3 people got to work as one. And of the 3 people, one person has to be in charge. So the clubs that are doing the best in this, in my opinion, South Philly is amazing at this, because they have their captain, they have their musical director, and they have their drill master, and those 3 guys are on the same page, and they know exactly what they're going to do, and they relay that to Chris Farr, who writes the music. They all know what they're doing. And I said, if you go to a Broadway show and say, okay, these 20 guys are going to be your directors now, and it doesn't work, because you have too many people coming in. You have to have one person or 2 or 3 max doing it. And if that doesn't work, get rid of those 3 and get another 3, because when you have too many people, you have too many ideas. And one person needs to be in charge of the whole thing. I was never in charge of the whole thing, but I was in charge of movement. And I would say, what do you think about this? And what do you think about bringing these guys in that way? And I always tried to bring in, to me, choreography for mummers is nothing but entrances and exits. How you make, especially in brigades, how you make an entrance and how you make the exit. They don't know steps. They're not looking at steps, because they can't see steps because you're covered in 80 pounds of feathers and sequins, so they can't see what you're doing. So in other words, how you present them, how you open up.
In your opinion, should you notice an exit, or is a good exit kind of fade in?
A good exit, you don't follow them as they leave. Like brigades, this is when they pull all those floats off. String bands are doing it now, because when the float rolls off, your eyes follow that float rolling off.
Right.
And then, especially in the convention center, you see everybody back there getting dressed and everything like that. You're pulling focus from where you should be looking at.
Now, if you like pitch a show and it doesn't get picked, are you immediately turned off? Are you out? Or?
No. Well, it's my job. That's my job. I have gotten shot down twice.
That's
in 41 years. Like if I had a theme, and I'm not going to say what club did it, but yeah. I'm not going to say whose club it was. And it never bothered me that they didn't understand what I was trying to say, because I say it all the time. What's in my brain, this sick mind up here, I have trouble conveying it so that normal people,
Lay people, I mean, really,
would understand it. And when I see it, and then it's not what I want it to be, I was like, because my mind is fabulous. There's all kind of stuff, but that's their right. I'm a hired help.
You're an employee.
Now, not to cut you off, what do you do professionally?
I was a musician for 50 years.
Okay.
I was a musician 50 years. I choreographed 40 years. Is it 40? 41. And I also paint, and I was doing murals and stuff like that. And I also worked for my brother's tree service. So I cut down trees.
You're a lumberjack.
Now, when you say you choreograph, you mean like outside of the Mummers?
No.
Oh, no. Okay.
I became, I did some dancing. I danced with a dance company who did some local things with Lionel Hampton, the jazz vibe player.
Mm-hmm.
We did that. And I worked a little bit with Glassboro State when it was called Glassboro State. That shows you how far I'd go back. But I did stuff like that. But I reached an age in my dance where I had to leave and go to New York or go to wherever and audition. That was never an option because I was with my brothers. And like, if I left this area to go there, my mother would say, "Where are you eating Thanksgiving dinner?" I was like, "Oh," so I was on, and there was no choice. I stayed with him.
And when you played professionally, that was with your siblings, right? Or,
yeah. It was the same band. We were together for 50 years to the month.
Oh, give us a story, a Quaile band story. There's got to be some good ones. Yeah.
Oh, there's some doozies. No, it's we started and we were like this cute Osmond nauseating thing, and we'd sing and say, "Here's my father, the greatest left-handed banjo player." And they've done some research that families genetically their voices blend together. So we were known for harmonies and sing because we learned on barbershop, and went, "Don't ask me to sing. I am the one Quaile who can sing like shit." So I said, but they can't dance. So so no, my brothers all. And we worked in Wildwood. That's where we got a lot of. We were known on 2nd Street. We were known in Suffolk. We did the casinos for like 20 years. Mm-hmm. We were named Lounge Act of the Year at Bally's Casino.
Wow.
No, for Atlantic City Magazine. And we did some stuff. We backed certain people, BX in the mountains. And everything. We did a lot, but it was the 5 brothers and the sister, the older sister and her 5 brothers, and everything we did was, and this is my brother, and this is my brother, this is my brother.
Now, were your brothers involved in the parade? Or was it
Yes.
just you and your dad? Really?
At the very beginning, when we were in Overbrook String Band, there were 8 Quailes. We had one line straight across, marched straight across, and it was my brothers, and I had a cousin and my uncle who wasn't. My uncle was in Quaker City with my father, and then his son Chuck. But that happened one year because my brother Jimmy, the drummer. That was at the time when the drummer played after the music. The music played, and they just played kids, and he hated that. He's like, "I'm playing, no one else is playing," and he had a point. My brother Michael, there's a couple things written about him. Michael has helped write music for Quaker City and a couple bands. He wrote the Hillbilly Year and that's stuff. And so they've always been involved in it. And every year on New Year's Day, and I never get to see this, they sit and watch it together and kill the place. They just make fun of everybody and everything, and they have a blast. But so they can follow it. We know one of our closest friends is Chris Farr, who writes for South Philly and a couple, and so we know like who to root for and certain things. But yeah, we've always been around. I was the one who sort of, when my father asked me to do that, and then I at the beginning I was just trying to impress my father. I was just like, come on, Dad, you can like me as much as you like the other boys.
Was winning important?
No, not to me. Yeah, I mean, it is. It's part of the deal. I always wanted to be the bridgeman. The Bridgemen were from Drum Corps International, and they later became the Velvet Knights. They were insane, just insane. And they never won. They always came in fourth or fifth. And they were called the Bayonne Bananas because they wore long yellow coats. And they did just, for drum corps, very, perfect. And these guys were insane. The story was that their directors would just sit and smoke a joint and then, okay, let's make up a deal now.
The reason I asked that is because when we first started talking about you coming on, you said to me, why would people be interested in me? And I started telling you about your wins. And you legitimately didn't have an idea how many wins you had. Have you ever, you sat down and you told me 127 themes?
We figured out, a friend of mine figured out that I have worked on 127 themes in some capacity, either the music or the choreography or doing the whole thing.
And we never could figure out exactly how many wins you had. We were around 25.
I don't think it was that many. I thought it was like 21. Somebody told me
it was 9 or 10 with the Stars, 9 or 10 with Quaker.
No, I think that's where it's off. Quaker, I helped on a couple of things, but there was a couple of their wins that I was
okay. So we'll knock off a couple.
I would work through when my father was directing. I would talk through him.
Gotcha.
And he was very smart the way he used to. He wanted to tell everybody, "Hey, my son Denny's helping you guys out," but he didn't want to say that because then it's like, who the hell?
Right.
So then, and the one year that comes to mind was their Hillbilly year, and it was 4 days before New Year's. And he said, "Dan, we don't have a finale." I said, "What do you mean you don't have a finale?" He said, "We don't have a finale." So I gave him the violin, for the big violin. That was the Busby Berkeley thing, and so.
Bobby had the
he had the bow.
Okay.
And he played the fiddle. It was violin. I said violin, but it's fiddle. So I gave him that idea, and my father wanted to tell everybody that I helped, but without saying my Denny came to So he's walking around the club saying, "God damn, Denny, I think I'm done with this theme," and he comes up with this idea. And he's making me work now, and so which was pretty cool. But a lot of those, I was involved with it. I don't think I ever marched with Quaker besides that one day. Oh, yes, I did.
You did the English thing.
The British year.
Yeah.
Another thing, for throwing guys through the air. The only reason I marched that year was because I had chimney sweeps on trampolines, jumping over back pieces. And rule number one, when you're jumping over something, is don't look at what you're jumping over because you will jump into it. Like if you're driving on the road, don't look at the curb because you'll drive into the curb. So one of the guys was a chimney sweep, and 5 days before New Year's, they had the last rehearsal, and he jumped and he looked at and he broke his arm. And he came up and he said, "You told me that," and I looked at the thing. I'm sorry, and he kept apologizing. I said, "All right, I'll re-choreograph the number so you can do it with the arm." And he said, "No." He was like gun shy now. So they made me a chimney sweep 5 days before New Year's, and by the way, take a bass fiddle too. So I was dancing and playing the bass fiddle that day, and I knew the dance because I choreographed. But I'm always putting people through the air, and people are always getting hurt.
Of your 127 themes, you've collaborated on quite a number with Bob Finnegan. Yeah. Can you speak on that professional relationship?
Yeah. I met Bob when I was doing Quaker, and he was in Kansas City, and I explained it over the phone. They said he's a costume designer. His name's Bob, and so I called him and explained it on the phone. And when he came, he drew exactly what I had said, and we found out. And he was always in Kansas City. And one time I flew out to Kansas City just to visit, and we became friends. Him and his partner David, and we found that we could do themes over the phone, like just like. Then we'll do this. Yeah, that works. That works. And he always kept me grounded, like the one thing that I loved, but I couldn't get it to work was Joker's Carnival of the Animals. That might be my most favorite theme. But he kept on saying, it's not grounded. It's not grounded. He said, you're just having these. So we came up with the concept of the everyman. In other words, there's like 8 guys that started. They lead everybody in. They pretend. It's a theater trick, They call it the everyman. And Bob put that in, and that made that theme work. And but I found there's 3 of us in that troupe. It's Bob Finnegan, myself, and my friend Andrew Basili, who makes all the patterns for all your costumes. Okay. we could do themes over the phone in 20 minutes and explain the whole theme, and we all knew what it was. So yes, we were. I used to hate it when he would come to see our drills because I was like, look at this, isn't this great? And he'd come in a week before New Year's and say, it's not working, fix it. And I'd be like, oh, goddamn. But he was one of those, I'll tell you what's right, because I don't want to be yes to this. Too many people are like, oh, it's so wonderful, it's so wonderful. And he was the one that made up that's a Quaile move. Like I'm not living down enough crap now.
Kind of reminds me a little bit of the like the Disney Imagineering mindset, like just that whole like little crew of
and when we did work together, like the bands and the men were like secondary. Here's the idea. What can we do? And a couple times in the club's honor, we went to New York one day. Andrew, Bob, and I, and of course we got up there and Bob can only talk about string bands, or mummers. Well, we talk about that. And Jokers were asking for a theme, and I said, I don't know what to do. So we go up and we walk through FAO Schwartz before our show, and it clicked. All of a sudden, it hit me, and I said, I don't know, Dr. Moreau, and they all said yes. So on the drive back, we did that whole job. So I called Freddie Keller. Oh, Fred, I got your theme. It's perfect. Yeah. What is it? I said, I don't know, Dr. Moreau. He said, never heard of it. I said, okay.
That's so Freddie.
Yeah. I said, not to insult you or anything like that. I said, go ask 10 people about the island of Dr. Moreau, and you'll understand. He called me the next day and says, all right, I asked 10 people. 9 never heard of it, and 1 said the movie sucked. I said, okay, Fred, just go with me on this one. And we came up with the concept of, the story is they turn it down. Well, not knowing anything, that club said, we're in, let's go. And that, to their credit, because we would make up this crazy shit, and they'd be like,
I think that's a theme that only the Jokers would have done. If you brought that to us, we would have said no way.
Right. And there was a couple of times when themes were submitted to, like, the Jokers were given Creatures Double Feature before Stars were. I don't know if you knew that.
That I knew.
Yes. And afterwards, I said to Fred, you had it first. He said, yeah, but I didn't know it was going to be that good. And I was like, come on, man. But
that actually kind of made me think of a point. Like, have you ever either heard or even came up with a show yourself or between your little team there and said, like, just say you were intending to work on something for this club and you go, that is not going to work for them.
Yes.
But it is going to work for this.
All the time.
Yeah.
All the time. And Bob and I were always fighting. I would say, I saw that idea. It's mine. Don't give it the Golden Crown. And he would give it the Golden Crown. But, there's a lot of clubs that would not, a lot of things that would not work in certain clubs. Each club has a personality.
Yeah.
And like Golden Crown, Big Pretty. Okay. So then they're not going to be doing power stuff.
Right.
But nobody beats them in Big Pretty. Stars got to be like a machine. It was like nothing but power. So I couldn't give them anything like a bunhead, would do. It's a ballerina. Bunhead's a ballerina. Sorry. Like I could never do that because that's not the. So I knew the personalities, and say no, they would never go for that. But
we talked about how you used to make words up, try to make yourself sound like you knew sports, which you didn't. You were terrible at it.
Yeah,
but did you do that with all clubs?
Yes. I tried. And I tried using dance terms, and I kept on messing up. There's a move called a chassé, okay? And it's like a side gallop. And I would say chassé, and everybody called it sachet. I said, it's not a sachet, it's a. Yeah. So then after a while, they said, yeah, we do that. And so then I got over it. I said, okay, stop. Okay. My most famous one was when they went down the ground and they jumped up, and I said, it's a hook shot.
Yeah.
And somebody said to me, how do you know what a hook shot is? And I said, I play basketball with my 5 brothers. Hello. I'm not totally off, but I forget which one I used the term, and it was like, no.
Yeah, you've had a couple. You weren't good at it.
I use sounds more than because a lot of times rhythmically, like if I was doing a move, I would go da 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 ba ba ba. Okay, well, what's a ba ba ba? Just do what I say.
Yeah,
and I always did the drill. Like I wasn't big on like do this and then sit down and watch it, which may have heard, because I very rarely watched it until at the end when everybody was hooked on, doing it wrong. 9 times out of 10, they were doing it wrong. I was like, oh, can't change it. But I would do it this way, and I'm looking over my shoulder. Well, they're all looking over their shoulder. No, you look at me. So sometimes things work. I tried to do it as professional as I could, as a professional dance class would. I taught dance in like real dance classes. I was teaching little kids classes. They were deathly afraid of me because I was teaching with the volume that I teach with mummers, and kids were like running and screaming to the mummers. So.
Now, you weren't a fan of kids at drill.
No.
I was gonna say, you admitted you have a style.
Yeah.
Now, do you think you should have a style, and how do you keep that current?
I think you're going to have a style no matter what it is, because it would be like a musician playing. Like, does he play a jazz style? Does he play like?
Yeah.
I mean, when you're doing it on a level of professionalism, I think if you don't have a style, then that means you're copying too many things and you're not making work. But at the same time, like if I'm doing Egypt or something and I'm doing the same style that I did for all that jazz, it's like, no, then, start getting Egypt. So I take it as a compliment of you can spot a Denny Quaile singing my way. When they started using the Quaile moves, every club I went to, we want a Quaile move. What's a Quaile move? Every club called me something different. That was another funny thing. I was in Florida one time and somebody called my name and I knew what club they were by what they called me. Stars, I was Quaile. Jokers, I was Quaile Bow. Freddie Keller started. Satin Slipper, I was Quails. Downtowners, I was Dennis, which nobody ever called me my first name before. But like, I was in Florida, and all of a sudden, Quaile, all of a sudden, so I said, stars. And I'm horrible with names and horrible with memories. And there's a couple times where I've met people, and I'm like, "Hi, I'm Denny Quaile." It's like, I know, I danced with you for 10 years.
Yeah,
I think that is funny because even though your brothers and your dad and everything were involved in the mummers, in this community, at least for me, you hear Quaile, I think of you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right off the bat. Like you hear just that name, I think of you.
I think now, because I stayed around for 40 years, but when I first started choreographing, they knew me as one of the Quaile brothers. And what do you mean he dances? What? And it was tough because they're like, okay, we know you're the bass player. Where did this come from? What was the dancing? And so, but the Brigades knew me as a dancer, not as like all of a sudden they would go to Atlantic City. Someone would see me. What are you doing on stage with those guys playing music? This is my job, So
I remember we used to, when I was with the Merrymakers, we would drill at Front and Dudley area, and you were at Stars, and you were at Front McKean, and we would look down. We were busy marching around, and we would look down, and they would be jumping around during the art, and we would say, "What the hell are they doing down there?"
Yeah,
and that was a Quaile move.
The Quaile move that I get every time. We want to move like that. I'd say, what do you think? I got a catalog of all this stuff? It was when Stars did this undersea thing where two lines came up and they come together and it opened up and it turned into like 8 trillion. I don't know. Where'd you get that one from? I don't know.
That's a good point to bring up. You're known for choreography and all. Where did all these formation idea? I mean, we've done some crazy formations. The Pirate Year, we came out, we looked like we were 2 lines and like that.
That was the Quaile move.
It was like 30 of us, or 30 lines out there. Was that hard? Do you find it harder to do the formation changes or the dancing?
No. Dancing is harder because dance ability changes with different people. Whereas most mummers know how to march. They know that. And dance, a lot of times in dance, they'll do a dance phrase and then everybody just scatters and then it goes to the next one. Well, I was getting carried away with just scatter and form something else. And I always try to come up with some, like I said, I see pictures in my head. And I like doing neat entrances because it always, it's like, wow.
Yeah.
Dance steps, there's a ton of choreographers around who are better dancers than me and better teach better dance steps. I just don't. So I always look at the big picture. You have to look at the whole thing, and if the whole thing's weaving in and out, then it's kind of cool.
Yeah. Now let me ask you this real quick. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I want to get your opinion on something. So a few years back at this point in the brigades, there was that controversy with, one of the clubs where there was quote professional help involved in producing the show, and it caused a little bit of what I'm referring to. I want to get your opinion on that because you've been involved for years, right? Would you consider yourself professional help, or is any choreographer, any costumer professional? Like, where's the line between
anyone who gets paid for their services is considered a professional? I was protested in Shooting Stars because the year they did Space or whatever it was, there was monitors in the background.
Yeah.
And it just looks like fun. And I was supposed to do that. And they said, no, can't do it because he's a professional. And I was like, okay, no big deal. Somebody else did it. If you look in the string band division, every club has a professional musician or 2 or 3 or 4 in there. So it's like this is really not anything new. I think the scandal you're talking about involved like a different kind of professional. The professionals were doing things that were not professional. Let's put it that way.
Right.
And it's like, well, it happens. Yes, the way I got around it was they were protesting me as a dancer, and I said, I'm a professional musician. I'm not, and so that and it had they had a rule where it's like, okay, 30% of your income has to be like. I think at the time I wasn't charging a lot for choreography.
They actually got that technical with it.
Oh yeah.
Really?
Oh, you have no idea the protest, which I said to Bill, I would not go into some of them.
Yeah.
But there was protests filed against me that were unbelievable.
Yeah, I didn't know that. That's crazy. So that wasn't really a first time thing then. A few years ago, that was
no.
This was something different.
Yeah,
it was more along the lines of personal.
I got attacked. Oh, I got attacked personally, and I can say what it was. I was protesting because I was evidently sleeping with one of the judges. Who knew?
Get out.
Who knew?
Wow.
Yeah, I didn't even know. So anyhow, but so like I said, it got weird. But when the professional thing happened, I was in Avalon at the time.
Sure.
And I was not a musician in Avalon. I was the drill master and the choreographer, and I was marching in front. I did not play an instrument, so I said, "I'm not a musician here." And then when it came down, I said, "Look at Quaker. How many bands are in Quaker? How many guys are in bands in Frelinger?" I said, "They're all professionals."
Yeah.
So I said that they were really starting to get like crazy.
Yeah.
I could understand professionals. Performing as professionals in front of the band, which is a fine line. So in other words, if you were doing a dance team and you brought in a dance crew from America's Got Talent or something like that,
right,
then you're like, okay, don't do that. Do it with mode. That I would have against, but not like we were just professionals, just trying to make it a better show, make it a better parade. That's all we tried to do.
Speaking of shows, what were some of your favorites? I mean, you mentioned Carnival Animals.
My favorite theme I ever created was Carnival of the Animals. And I've said this publicly. I was never so upset of winning first prize that year.
Yeah.
And it has nothing to do. It had nothing to do with Shooting Stars. It had nothing to do with the Jokers. To me, it was creativity took a back step to March Punch. Stars were amazing that year. It was clean. It was powerful. And it won. And to me, I wanted creativity to advance. And I mean, my favorite being in a theme was Avalon's Clowning with the Classics. We had so much fun that all we did was mess around, making fun of everything. So we had a good time with that. I liked a lot of themes I did not like. Either I didn't like the theme or I didn't like the way it came out. Some hey, it came in second. No shit. I didn't have it in the top 10. So you take the good with the bad, and it's just like. And when all is said and done, I just want to make sure that the people in the club were okay. Because passion is an understatement with people. I'm trying to explain to people that I know outsiders what Mummers is about. Like I said to you earlier, I would come home and, what are you talking about Mummers till 3 o'clock in the morning? I said, we're not talking about Mummers till 3 o'clock in the morning. We're just talking about it. But it's a beyond passion. And I said, when you work so hard for a whole year trying to get something, and for some reason it just doesn't work. You're like, I feel like I just shot the dog. It's like, come on, sorry. And I took a lot of it personally. I took a lot of bombs personally. But you learn, you don't hit a home run every time you come up to bat.
It's true.
Did that work? Was that?
Yes, it did.
That one fit. You've been practicing.
I'm trying.
Well, I could keep you here all night
Yeah,
long. I really could, but we do appreciate you coming down because that was a lot of fun, especially for the first.
We could probably have a part 2 with him.
Oh my god, yeah, we could definitely have a part 2 with you. You're going to be back probably, but that was a really good time. And Dennis, we really appreciate you coming down, or Quaile, or whatever you want to.
I think you should make up a new
name. Yeah. You can sign the new name on the board right.
Oh yeah,
there.
you got autograph on the wall.
But before we wrap up, just of course a couple notes to go through. Always, of course, follow Mum Nation on Facebook. Follow the show, Word on the Street, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and iHeart. For sponsorships for the show, call, text, or message any of us. And we really want to push for a good number donated this year because all the money goes to mummers' causes and all that kind of good stuff. That, so we give back. Listen to the podcast every other week. We always try for Fridays, so keep that in mind. Turn on your alerts, comment and share your thoughts through Mum Nation and through our polls and comment section on Spotify. Leave us stuff because we love to talk about it on the following episodes. We love to incorporate all that we can in our roundup discussions and everything like that. If you have an idea for an episode, let us know. And we will be back for a whole other season. We got a lot of good stuff planned for you and kicking it off great with Dennis here. And it was an awesome
Thank you very much for coming down.
Yeah, absolutely. So Mike Jacobs,
Billy Yoakum,
Haley Heron.
Thanks a lot.
Billy Yoakum, Haley Heron, and Mike Jacobs. Produced by Haley Heron and Mike Jacobs. Producer Brian Donnelly. Thank you to Cheyenne McLean.